Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Akiona Law Podcast, wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects in the areas of family law and divorce. And today I have on with me divorce and co parenting coach Meg Gluckman. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you, Lani. I'm thrilled to be here.
And so, to give you a little bit of introduction about Meg, so Meg is a host of Welcome to the Other Side podcast. She is, as I said, she is a divorce and co parenting coach, and she specializes in supporting parents, whether they have toddlers, tweens, or 30 something, navigate through challenging life transitions such as divorce, but doing it with grace, resilience, and respect and courtesy for the other. So, Meg, tell us about yourself. How did you get into divorce and co parenting coaching?
Yeah. Well, like so many others in this field, I had my own personal experience of it. So I went through a challenging divorce, and
Oh, sorry.
as as so many of us do,
Yeah.
and I
Wait. Can I
really,
ask? Can I ask you,
yeah,
Meg, how many years past are you through this challenging divorce?
8 years.
Okay, and you're thriving,
So,
living your best
and
life,
I'm
right?
thriving. I'm loving my life. So my
Okay.
kids are
Yeah.
now 10 and 14. They were 2 and 6 when we went
Wow.
through the divorce. And
Young.
I did not have a lot of support going through the divorce.
Okay.
I did not know what I was doing, where I was going. I was super nervous about my financial future. I was super nervous about how my kids were going to adapt to households and how I was going to co-parent with my ex. And so I
Right.
dove into a lot of learning um, around co-parenting. And I came across one of our mentors, Karen Bunnell,
Oh,
and started consuming everything that she had. And
wait,
that was, yeah,
Meg, for the listeners out there, can you explain who Karen Bunnell is, please?
yeah. Karen Bunnell is a co-parenting coach and mediator. She has written multiple books about co-parenting and teaches a lot of professionals, especially in the collaborative divorce community, how to support parents going through divorce. And
Yeah.
her resources and her philosophy is really about how do we center the kids during divorce and during co-parenting after divorce without putting them in the middle. So
Right.
I love that like
Yeah.
conundrum of like how do we center them without putting them in the middle of the conflict. And so I learned a
Okay.
lot from her. And
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
yeah,
Was she your mentor?
yeah, I have worked
Wow.
with her for years
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Okay. And the reason why I say that, folks, is because Karen is retired. So you need to work with her mentor, like Meg.
Mentees, yeah,
Mentee. Thank
exactly.
you.
There you go. Yeah. And I mean, her books are the resources that I most recommend to all of my clients. She
Right.
has the co-parenting handbook, which is great for anyone at any stage, whether you're just thinking about getting divorced or you're divorced and you're co-parenting. It's a great handbook. She also has the step family handbook, which is great even if nobody's dating yet, right? But you're
Yeah.
wanting to think about it. It has a lot of great perspectives and strategies on how to eventually incorporate new people into your family. Yeah, so working with her and also getting incorporated, I do a lot of work with the collaborative law community as well. I love supporting parents who want to stay out of court. So whether it's going through mediation or going through the collaborative process or doing it on their own kitchen table style, I love supporting parents in those kind of different divorce pathways. Yeah. So it's been an evolution. I've been coaching for 5 years,
Okay.
and just love working with my clients. I work individually with parents, so I am only working with one parent at a time.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but they're able to take whatever we do, uh, together in our sessions to their mediation, to their collaborative
Okay.
process, or to their, spouse around the kitchen table to work things out.
Wait, so let's I just want to dial back a little bit. For those people who have maybe listening to this podcast for the first time and don't know what is collaborative law, can you briefly describe what is collaborative law?
Yeah. Though I know you could do it probably
Yeah.
even better than I could. So collaborative law is a way of navigating the whole divorce process with the support of a team. And the team consists of an attorney for each party, a divorce coach, who's actually a mental health practitioner who facilitates the process, and then a financial neutral. And so all of those professionals are on a team, essentially together, to support both of you, you and your spouse, and your kids as you navigate through this process. Um, and it's different than doing litigation, where you're actually adversarial in your approach. Um, in the collaborative process, you are sharing all your information readily and being extremely transparent with the other party, and you're essentially committing to working it out in this container as opposed to going to court.
Right. And in a nutshell, litigation means, folks, that you're going to court and you're fighting. That's
Yeah,
where the mudslinging, throwing crap on the wall happens.
yeah,
But in collaborative law, you sign an agreement basically stating that we will not go to court to resolve our differences, and we will work within this container, as Meg described, this team of professionals who are there to support us to figure things out in a truly collaborative manner, which means we come together as a group and we problem solve. We work things out, we talk things out, and we try to figure out the best solution for all of us in a really kind, authentic, and transparent manner. And when you do it that way,
yeah,
that actually saves on cost in the long run.
yeah. And I love all of that. And I'll just grab onto the word kind,
Yeah.
right, that you shared. Because I think sometimes the word collaborative can make folks feel like, okay, the only folks that can use this process are ones that are like best friends still, they
Mm,
get along, they agree on everything, it's going to be
right.
smooth sailing, right? And in reality, you do need to be respectful, right, as you're working through this process, but you don't have to agree on anything other than we're willing to use this process
Right.
to make all of our decisions and come to an agreement. So even if you're not really talking to your
Right.
spouse, or if you feel like you're going to be opposed on everything, the
Yeah.
parenting schedule, how to
Right.
divide up the assets, who gets the house, you can still use the process if you both agree to sign the participation agreement and to be transparent
Right.
through the process. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point, Meg, because it's still hard. It's
it's still
very,
hard.
very
Yeah.
hard. Yeah. Uh, so going in to, well, okay, here's a question. So if someone says, I already have a lawyer, how would a coach help me?
Yeah, yeah,
What would you say?
yeah. There's a bunch of different ways. One, a lawyer is really there to provide you legal advice, right? They
Mm,
can explain to you what's needed, what different options are for your divorce and so forth. They're not there to do emotional processing for
ah,
you. They're not there to help you necessarily
mm,
us think about how better to communicate what you want and what you need to your co-parent, right? Um, they're not there to help you really uncover like what are your fears behind X, Y, and Z, right? I have a lot of clients who come in and say, "Well, I'm scared to go to mediation because he's going to say he wants the house." Okay? And we go
okay.
through a session of like, "Well, why are you afraid to hear that?"
Oh,
right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the fear of him saying those words? And can we pull that back and uncover, okay, maybe it's something like, well, I'm just going to give in to him, or he's going to fight, or whatever it is. But like, we do a deeper digging around what your fears are so that you can come into meetings, whether it's just one-on-one with your attorney or in mediation or in the collaborative process, and feel much calmer and clear about what, what your needs are, what your wants are moving forward. A lot of folks feel like in the beginning of the divorce process that the process is kind of driving them, like it's out of their control,
Right.
right? Or it's the other person kind of pushing them through it. And things can really shift, and you can feel a lot more empowered if you can go into those meetings knowing what you want to get out of the meetings, knowing what's on the agenda, knowing all the issues that might come up. And that's just like deeper work that you can do with a coach
Okay.
versus your attorney who's going to prepare you, with an agenda, but isn't necessarily going to do the emotional work that's behind all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nor do you want to pay your attorney to do that emotional processing.
Absolutely. I am a lot cheaper
Yeah.
than attorneys. Divorce and co-parenting coaches are going to be a lot cheaper. And we've had the training for it, right? Versus
Yeah, you've
attorneys, best of intentions, that's not what their training is in. Like use them, it's like using the right tool for the right occasion, right? Like use them to help you with the legal piece of it.
Mhm.
And use coaches to help you with the emotional piece of it.
Right. In a way, it's almost like that coach is that your backbone that can lift you up and support you. And the attorney's like, well, this is what we can do
Yeah.
to get you through it in
Mhm.
terms of structuring things that hopefully work out best for you and the kids.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, so my next, it just popped in my head is like, okay, so you had mentioned earlier that as a co-parenting coach that you only work with one parent. Now,
Mhm.
maybe I'm just being naive, but wouldn't it make sense that a co-parent work with both parents together to coach them to stop being shitty in a way? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the beautiful thing is it really only takes one person
Okay.
to change the system, right? As one parent changes, it creates ripple effects with the other person. Um, the reason I only work with one person, and there's definitely co-parent coaches out there who work with
Mhm.
both parties together, right?
Okay.
I work with one person because I want to go deeper with them, right?
Okay.
And the ability to go deeper and be more vulnerable and get to the root cause of like, okay, why does that text from your ex send you into a spiral for 3 days, right? Like getting to the root of what's going on
Mhm.
for you. Um, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that if the spouse is sitting in the same room
Right.
listening to it, right? They
Right.
want the privacy of like being able to do that deep work. And
Yeah.
then uh I'm also like a lot of what we do is allowing the other person to show up however they're going to show up, right?
Oh,
However they're choosing to show up
okay.
and you being okay no
Because
matter what.
because we can't control people, places, things, and situations. All we can
Right.
control is
Mhm.
how we show up and respond.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right? And the other person is going to change. They're going to do whatever they want to do if they want to do it,
if they
right?
want
So
to.
we talk a lot about you can still make a request that they behave in a certain way, right? So you don't like that they take 5 days to respond to an email request that you send. Okay, you can ask them, can you please respond in the next, 24 hours so that I can move forward?
Mhm.
And they still are an adult. They get to decide what they're going to do. We don't have control over them
Yeah.
about whether or not. But how can we be okay? Okay, if they don't respond, what am I going to do? right? How do I
Right.
not let it bother me and I still am able to move forward and create the life that I want to be creating?
That makes sense. Cause and it's tough because what comes to my mind when you're talking right now is you especially need support when the co-parent on the other side is emotionally dysregulated.
Absolutely.
And
Hmm.
that, and you have been in a situation if it feels like everything is all your fault.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
in fact, there is Bill Eddy has a podcast called "It's All Your Fault," and Bill Eddy is a he was a psychologist, therapist slash lawyer, and now he runs the High Conflict Institute, New Ways for New Family, where he teaches people how to parenting skills when you have a high conflict parent. And in a
Yeah,
nutshell, high conflict personalities are he characterizes they exhibit signs of maybe like a narcissistic personality trait, a borderline personality disorder, antisocial, histrionic. Anyway, it's a whole listen to his podcast. It's all your fault. It makes you realize you're not going crazy.
yeah,
But
yeah,
going back to what Meg was saying, when you have a co-parent like that, you feel crazy. And so that's why they need you to be like, okay, someone's saying, hey, look, we're on this 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off parenting plan. And last semester, our son got straight A's, and now it's your week. And now, in just this 1 week he's with you, he's failing his classes.
yeah,
Tell me, then you'll be able to tell them, like, what would you say to this co-parent, like, that's freaking out at you?
yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so one of the first things that I love to do with folks is I
Yeah.
love them to tell me, pretend like I was going to be an actor and
Okay.
I was going to act like I was going to embody the role of your spouse or
Okay.
your ex, right? Like describe everything to me. Like describe how they behave, describe how they make decisions, describe how they react to your text, describe
Wow.
how, they are going to feel about something your kid does or whatever. Like give it all to me. Okay, and so that I can really embody
Ah,
that person. Okay. And they, as soon as I open the door there for them to tell me that,
yeah.
it just like floods out, right? Like blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. It's like they know exactly what's going to
You're
happen,
right.
right? It's so highly predictable, right? And so I say, okay, so it's really clear like how they're going to behave. Why are we surprised when they behave that way?
Because we hope that they're going to do better, right?
Right. Right. So we hold out that hope that
Yes.
somehow it's going to be different.
Yes.
But the impact of that on us, right, is
Hmm.
that we're in this constant state of like
Hmm.
disappointment and frustration and
Yeah.
resentment,
Here
as
we go again.
opposed, right, as opposed to us just being like, oh, yep, it's a Tuesday, in February, like, oh, it's time for them to say it's all my fault and explode. Okay, yep, great, right? And so when we start really accepting them for how they behave, then we start designing our life around, okay, this is probably how they're going to behave. And it might be option A, B, and C, right? Like it might not just be one, but this is my guess of like when I send this text, this is what they're going to do. Oh, they chose B this time. What a surprise. Great. And now I'm moving forward in a way that I had already planned out. And I have a force field down, right? I love talking about the force field. It's like
Porchfield.
my force field, right? So their
Wait,
emotional
what is this?
weather,
What is this?
I'm telling
Okay.
you, their emotional weather
Okay.
can't impact me. It can't get through to me. It's a
Because I have
force
my
field.
force field.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So they get to have all their big emotions. Woo, you're
Yeah.
having a lot of big emotions, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's in a lot of ways, it's no different than when we had a toddler who was like, I don't want to get in the
Yes.
car seat. You are not going to
Yes.
buckle me in this car seat, right? And they're having all these big emotions, and you're
Big
just like,
emotions.
I know, sweetie, you don't like it. That's okay. Like, that's okay that you are having this temper tantrum because I'm still going to move forward. right? And I'm still going to buckle you in your car seat, and we're going to keep going, right?
Yeah, take a deep breath. I'm going to take a deep breath.
I'm going to take a deep breath. You're
Yep,
allowed your
do
big
it.
emotions, and I keep going with mine,
I keep
right?
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and when you're dealing with that type of just emotionally dysregulated person, it is literally an adult. It is a toddler having a temper tantrum in an adult body. And that's
Yeah.
what you've got to tell yourself. All right, even though this is a 47-year-old man,
Yeah.
emotionally, he's acting, man or woman, they're acting like a 4-year-old. This is a toddler temper tantrum right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And what they don't realize, right? They
They don't
think
realize it.
that everything that you do
Hmm.
determines how they feel, right?
Which is so odd,
Right?
right?
But
Because
they are giving you the power. They think when you text them this thing about a change of plans or a request for something, that impact, like, that determines how they feel. They don't realize that how they feel is really about how they frame anything in their life, right? How they
Mhm,
think about a text. Like, they don't
mhm.
see the optional ways to think about something. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So just getting back to, this is why I do one-on-one work, right?
right.
Because getting that skill down so that you start predicting how they're going to act, and you have your plan of how you'll respond, and you build the Jedi level skill set of not letting their emotional weather impact yours. It's really a one-on-one kind of work to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess in my head, I was and then I get it, there are some people that could do this, but and I think it's so like in my head, I was almost kind of thinking sometimes, okay, so when you have something that when you are dealing with emotional dysregulation, my thought would be, okay, well then the coach works with mom and then the coach works with dad and then the next section the coach can bring them next session the coach can bring them together and say, hey, when Johnny was got a C on his math quiz and then dad went and catastrophized like, oh my gosh, now he's gonna fail. And then, can we like talk about that as a group
Yeah.
or is that
What
far-fetched?
this this to me is part of the transitioning from being spouses where
Ah,
we are, like, emotionally entangled in
right.
in a good way. Like, I mean, we are there to support each other, right? We are there to help meet each other's needs. Like, we're there as intimate partners, like, because we want to be so close and we want to be so supportive of each other,
Okay.
to this place where we're co-parents who we're in the business of raising kids together, right?
Okay.
We are like business colleagues. We have this big project to raise these kids, right?
These fits. Yeah.
Um, but we don't depend on each other for help emotionally regulating, right? It's not
Wait,
the
say
other
that again.
person's job
Say that
anymore.
again. You gotta say that again because that was really good.
Yeah. So when we're in just co-parents now, instead of intimate partners,
Right.
we're not responsible for helping each other regulate our emotions.
And that's the crux of it right there.
Yeah.
It's
So
hard.
it's hard, and the pathway to get from the intimate partners to
Yeah.
the co-parents who operate
The
in kind of this
business.
business relationship
Right.
is messy.
It
It's
is.
messy to get there. And generally there's one party, that's a very legal term. There's one person who it clicks for sooner than the other
Yeah.
person, right? So if one person is like, okay, I'm not going to do emotional processing with my spouse anymore because that we're changing our relationship, right? And they lean on other people. They lean on friends, they lean on coaches or therapists to, like, do the emotional processing, right? And they start communicating in a very direct, clean, clear business, like, uh requests and expectations kind of thing, while the other person is still kind of like emotionally entangled in it, right? And so
Yeah, yeah.
that can be part of like one of the most challenging parts of this is when you're starting to communicate differently. But eventually, most folks, most folks, not all, get to a co-parenting relationship where both parties are just communicating very clearly, right? This, oh, Johnny's dentist appointment got canceled. It's now on Tuesday instead of on Monday, right? Or, would you be able to have the kids for one more night on this weekend? Yes or no? Can you tell me in 24 hours? Thank you, right? Um,
Right.
but it can be muddy to get there.
Okay, so I got it. So let me figure this out. Okay, so in my example, where let's just say dad is freaking out because
Hmm.
dad's like, I checked online and
Yeah,
right now Johnny is failing 4 out of 6 classes during your week. Like, what's going on? Junior year is Johnny's most important year, and he was an
yeah,
A student, and now he's failing half of his classes during your week. So instead of mom getting riled up in a way and saying like, why are you blaming me? It's like been 1 week, there's like, let's have a reality check. It's
yeah.
just mom could say like, hey, so if mom emotionally disentangles herself, because it's hard.
Hmm.
It's hard,
Hmm.
mom. Like we get it when someone is blaming
Yeah.
you and saying it's your fault, and it's hard not to get defensive and react it. But if you think, okay, what are we're no longer this entangled enmeshed spouses, we are in the business of co-parenting Johnny. So
Hmm.
mom could say like, look, I understand your concerns. You've raised some good concerns here, and you know what, I talked to Johnny, and Johnny's having a really hard time this week with transitioning, and he's having a hard time focusing in school, and you can see that's impacted on his grades. But you know what? If we show up together and support Johnny and say, you know what, son, we know this transition is difficult, and we as your parents are here to support you through this, he will get through this, and
Hmm.
he'll come out better because he'll learn. He'll see, it's in a way, it's when the child is transitioning and going back and forth, that teaches your child flexibility. And isn't that a wonderful skill to learn in life, how to be flexible, how to adapt to situations?
Hmm. Yeah. And there could be a transition time where it's rough, right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying. So I think the example of the response that you gave might work for
Mm-hmm.
some folks. So
For
I
some
think that
folks.
this is very customized,
Ah,
right?
right.
Again, knowing how your spouse tends to react, we're going to predict it. What do they need to see in communication that, best sets you up? Now we can't control them how they're going to react, but what do they need, right? So someone else in that same
Yeah.
situation might say, um, I hear your concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to talk to Johnny about how he's feeling and like what's
Oh,
going on for him, right?
oh,
We're dealing
just
with
like
a
that.
dealing with a high schooler,
Yeah.
right? So like if you're at home and you've talked to Johnny
Mm-hmm.
and you have a good sense of what's going on, but you know that words from your mouth or words from your text
Mm-hmm.
don't land, right? Like they just aren't valued in the same way by your co-parent, then the encouragement might be, okay, you have a relationship. I encourage you to talk to him when he comes back and figure out, right?
Oh.
Someone else might say, I appreciate that. I also am concerned, like I don't want his grades to drop. Let's see how it goes for the next month and
Yeah.
then check in on it,
Yeah.
right?
Because I mean, a kid's not going to fail school just for getting bad assignments for 1 week.
Right, right. And like who knows? Like who knows what else is going on and what else is going to evolve. So I think there can be a lot of different ways to respond, but um
Mm-hmm. That's why you need
all
a coach.
all of the ways though, but all of the ways, let's point this out. All of the
Okay.
ways that we've given all the examples, right, are super simple,
Super
right? This
simple.
this is not this long diatribe around, well,
5
here's the
paragraphs.
reasons,
Yeah.
or defending yourself, right? Or saying, well, if this hadn't happened a year ago, or like, it's none of that. It's
Right,
like
right,
super, super simple, right?
right.
So,
No,
yeah,
you definitely don't want to get defending because then that's just going to go this back and forth, back and forth.
mm-hmm,
Bill Eddy talks about, and I have this book, it's called BIF for co-parents, and it means
yeah,
brief, informative, friendly, and firm.
yeah,
Um, and you don't want to write more than like three sentences, 4 sentences at the most, but it's an excellent resource. And
yeah,
I give it to clients and I use it
yeah.
myself a lot in just all aspects.
Yeah. And I love it too. I also give it to clients, and the friendly, sometimes I tweak that, right?
Okay.
That as opposed to friendly, I like to think about like business professional, right?
Yes.
Like that's kind of
Yes.
the level. Like you're not trying to be buddies.
Right,
You're
right.
trying to be like a respectful business colleague. That's the level that you're interacting on. And what I have found, I've tested this, it's kind of fun, is if you draft an email and
Okay.
then you go and you put it in like a chat GPT or one
Yeah.
of the AIs and you say to it, make this BIF. And you just say BIFF.
Be no Biff.
It knows it.
Because
Yes. And it
I'm,
spits it out to you.
oh, I am
Yeah.
dying because I've done this. Make this better.
Yeah.
Make it Biff. I love that. I'm gonna
Make
try
it BIF. And it like whoop, cleans it right up. So, and essentially what it's
it.
doing is it's
Wow.
taking out the emotional piece of it,
Yes.
right? It's keeping it factual. It's keeping it clean and simple.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Meg, you just blew my mind right now. This is going to help me with my clients so much when they're dealing with, because I get it. Like my clients can't afford to be in a way emailing me all the time. So I'm going to
Yeah.
tell my team to suggest it to my clients. Like, hey, use Chat GPT, use AI, say make
Mm-hmm.
it. Better.
Yeah. Perfect.
Wow. Wow. And this is for Gemini too, right?
I'm
I use,
sure. I'm sure it's in
I use
all of them.
Gemini.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so exciting. Okay, so the next thing, and maybe we touched upon this, going from like, is there a specific tip or tool other than what we talked about, how you go from emotionally connected spouses to business like co-parents?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to find other support for
Okay.
processing what's going on, processing how you're feeling. And it's really important that that support is not your kids, right?
Oh,
Like, let's just point that out. Like,
oh, true.
you're not going to process with them how, well, dad didn't respond to my email yet. So it's all on him and he's really bad at responding. Like, that's not helpful to them, right? It harms their relationship. It makes things more complicated for them. You're putting them in the conflict.
Yeah.
But you can have friends, right? You can have friends where you have a venting session and you're like, "Ah, this drives me
Okay.
crazy," right? Um, so definitely it's not about like, oh, I shouldn't have any feelings about what
Okay.
he emailed me or she emailed me, right? No, you can have all your feelings, just have an outlet for them.
Okay. But I think that goes too, where in a way, as part of you being the divorce co-parenting coach, you're teaching your clients the skill set, the tools, how to in a way disconnect or disengage from this intimate partner relationship to being
Yeah.
co-parents.
Yeah.
And it's not so, and it's a series
It is.
because
I mean, because it's an identity shift. I mean, it's a
yeah,
huge, huge identity shift, right? And with any big identity shift like this, whether it was our choice to get divorced or
yeah,
not, there's grief. There's grief that's a part of it, right? And it's complicated because we don't know what the future, like what we're going to feel like in the future. Like, who are we going to be when we're not
who are
married? And
we?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We lose this identity
Yeah.
of being a spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
It takes time,
It takes time.
it takes time.
I kind of almost like visually see it, right? And especially if you're in you're in a long-term relationship, whatever, and you have all of these different cords that connect you in this intimate partner relationship. And part of that, as you go through this process, is learning how to cut or disentangle those cords. And it is not an easy process. And how do you do that without blowing up your life and blowing up the kids in the process as well by getting them involved? And that's why they need someone like you to kind of coach them through it.
Yeah. And I always emphasize, like, get yourself a lot of support through this process.
Okay. Like
Folks,
therapists, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
most of my clients have a therapist. Parents often come in and say, well, should I get a therapist for my kids? Right. And there's a few different factors on that. One, it depends on
Okay.
their age,
Yeah.
and what's really going to be useful. But what I say is, are you supported enough? Because you already have this close relationship with your kids, right? So they they're going to feel most comfortable, most at ease just with you right now, talking to you
Okay.
about what's going on. Do you have the support to be able to talk to them and support them? And then if they need more support, we can talk about, like, okay, finding a therapist for them. But remember that as they're going through this whole process, if we're saying, okay, like, let's try therapy for them, they have to develop a whole new relationship with a trusting adult, right? It's
Yeah.
not going to be a snap your fingers and, like, suddenly they're able to process everything and so forth. So I always back up and say, first, for the parent, do you have as much support? Can you be in a conversation with your kid about how they're really feeling as they're navigating this? And if you don't
Okay.
feel like you can have that kind of conversation, then you need to get to that place where you can be in that conversation with them before you're trying to kind of outsource that conversation to a therapist.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
That's my 2 cents on it. I'm not opposed at all to therapy for kids and, all of that, but I think sometimes we can jump to that before we do the work for ourselves to be able to support our kids in that way.
That's a good point because it ultimately you've got to, going through a messy divorce. I see my therapist weekly, and it
Mhm.
is tremendous for helping process through things, and
Yeah.
also how do I show up for my kid as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
How do I be there and support my kid?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Um, Now, in terms of a co-parenting coach, like, are do you how does a co-parenting coach work with customizing a parenting plan?
Yeah, so I can work with any of my clients on going through the parts of a parenting plan and explaining to them what they are, right? So we've got, like, the residential schedule or how decisions are made. Um, and we can brainstorm, for your specific situation, what might feel really good to you, right? Like, what are some of the different options? What is unique to your family situation, right?
Okay.
Like, um and we kind of, like, have all those ideas so that they can kind of get to a place of, like, this would these three options would feel really good to me, and then they can go into a meeting with their attorney or collaboration or mediation and already kind of have a sense of, like, here are the things that are really important to me, and here's some ideas of how I think things might work, you know, always with the idea of, like, gonna take both of you, right? You both have to agree to it. Um, but you can start by better understanding what you would really like.
So, what are can you just briefly touch upon just what are the four main parts of a parenting plan that you would help someone?
Yeah. So, decision making,
Decision making is one,
right? Conflict resolution,
conflict resolution,
right? The parenting schedule, or the residential
parenting,
schedule, as it's
right?
called, right?
Parenting schedule,
Um,
residential schedule, and four,
yeah. And then 4, I kind of just, I mean, you might have a different category, but I have, like, all these miscellaneous things,
miscellaneous,
right?
the other provisions.
There's
Yeah.
the other provisions, which sometimes we put into the legal parenting plan, and sometimes we actually will craft, I won't craft, but they can work with their attorney or mediator to craft kind of a co-parenting agreement, right? So there might be things that aren't really legally enforceable, right? But are important to you,
Okay.
right? So, okay, we both value the kids getting to spend time with their grandparents who are getting really old. And so we're going to both support an annual visit to see
Okay.
grandparents, right? Or,
Yeah.
something like that. Or here's how we want to handle the first cell phone, or here's how we want to handle driver's
Yeah.
ed. We can put kind of intentions. Um,
Okay.
and that's kind of, it's nice to be able to work through all of that stuff, even though it doesn't necessarily need to be in the
Right.
the legal parenting plan.
Got it. And Meg, I would love to continue this conversation with you and have you come back so we
Yeah,
can dive into like the four different parts of a parenting plan.
that would be awesome. I would love to do that.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, there you go, folks. You just heard it. We're going to come back and we're going to devote the next 4 episodes into the four main parts of a parenting plan with divorce and parenting coach Meg Gluckman.
Yay.
Meg, thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm really excited to dive into you on the next 4-part series of how to create a parenting plan. And with a that's is this just in the collaborative law context or?
No, I think it really could be, let's say that it's for
Yeah.
outside of court, right? So it
Okay.
could be collaborative, it could
Yeah.
be in mediation, or it could be a DIY. Yeah.
DIY. Ooh, love it.
Kitchen table. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. Well, there you go. And Meg, oh my gosh, how can people get a hold of you to work with you?
Oh, thank you. So I have my website, which is just my name, meggluckman.com, and you
And
can go
can you,
there.
yeah, spell your
Yep.
last name, please.
Gluckman. And I have my podcast linked there. Welcome to the other side. I have a blog. I have a ton of resources you can download from there as well. And then if you're interested in learning more about coaching yourself, you can schedule a consult call with me from there.
Awesome. And before you sign off, Meg, what is a fun fact about yourself that we wouldn't know just from today or looking at you?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first thing that came to mind, because I'm already starting to think about gardening, is like
Okay.
my number one favorite thing to garden is potatoes. Because it's like such a surprise, right? Like you have no idea what is under the ground. And I'm
Wow.
always like, every time I harvest potatoes, I'm like, woohoo!
Oh my
Jackpot.
gosh. I love potatoes. Can you give me some? I thought for sure you're going to say some sort of flower. I never would have guessed
Oh,
potato.
no, I love growing potatoes.
All right. Well, you better give me some when you start growing because
All right.
we don't live that far away.
No, we don't at all.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. And again, join us back next time when we have our featured and distinguished guest, Meg Gluckman. Meg Gluckman, join us for a 4-part series about creating a parenting plan. Thank you again, Meg. This is so much fun.
Thank you, Lani. Appreciate you.
Okay, and thank you all my listeners and you podcast viewers for listening to another episode of the Akiona Law Podcast, wherein we talk about anything and everything that intersects with the areas of family law and divorce. Until next time, be well. The information in this podcast is general advice only and should not in any respect be relied on as specific legal advice.